Welcome to long-form content of Tech Bytes and News. This is a compilation on latest news and articles featured on Hacker News. You can find the original links of articles in the description. Please like and subscribe to support future content. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into Electro, a ridiculously fast image viewer built using Rust. It's blazingly fast, folks.
Whoa, Rust? That's a bold choice. What makes it so much faster than, say, a typical image viewer written in Python or JavaScript?
Exactly. The core is Rust, which is known for its performance and memory safety. This translates directly to lightning-fast image loading and rendering. No more lag, no more waiting. It's instant.
I see. So it's not just about the language, it's the whole design philosophy, right? They mention a developer-first experience. What does that mean in practice?
Yeah, it's a holistic approach. It's lightweight, meaning it doesn't hog system resources. And get this, it has a built-in terminal. A terminal! Imagine being able to manipulate images, run scripts, all within the image viewer itself. It's genius!
A built-in terminal? That's unexpected. What kind of commands can you run? Is it just for show, or is it actually useful?
Oh, it's incredibly useful. They've got custom commands for enhanced productivity. You press T to open it, and then you can use the help command to explore the available options. It's all documented on the GitHub page. It's not just a gimmick, it's a real productivity booster.
Interesting. So it's open source, right? That's a big plus for transparency and community involvement. But what about the license? Is it restrictive?
It's licensed under GPL 3.0, so it's open source, but it's important to understand the implications of that license before contributing or using it in a commercial project. You should definitely check the license file on GitHub for the specifics.
Good point. And how about installation? Is it a complicated process?
Nope, super straightforward. You download the latest release from their GitHub releases page, run the installer, and you're done. It even automatically sets itself as the default image viewer, which is a nice touch. Easy peasy.
That's convenient. What's the tech stack like? I'm curious about the back-end and front-end choices.
The front end uses Preact with TypeScript, and the back end is built with Tauri version 2.0 using Rust. They're using Zustand for state management and plain CSS for styling. A pretty solid and efficient stack, I'd say.
It sounds impressive. But how does it actually perform in real-world scenarios? The GitHub page mentions that GIFs don't fully capture its speed.
Yeah, the GIFs are just a glimpse. They don't do justice to how incredibly smooth and responsive it is. You really have to try it to believe it. The responsiveness is just amazing. It's a game changer for image viewing.
So overall, it seems like a really promising project. The combination of Rust's performance, a built-in terminal, and an open-source license makes it quite compelling. I'm definitely going to check it out.
Absolutely. I highly recommend giving Electro a try. It's a breath of fresh air in the world of image viewers. And remember, folks, you can find all the details, including the source code and contribution guidelines, on the GitHub page. Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the exciting changes and new features packed into the upcoming GCC 15 release series. Get ready, it's a big one.
I'm pumped. What are some of the major highlights?
Well, first off, huge improvements across the board. But let's start with some deprecations and removals. NIOS 2 support is gone, completely removed. And for AArch64, ILP32 support is deprecated, slated for removal in a future release.
Interesting. Any breaking changes developers should be aware of?
Absolutely. The zero union initializer in C and C++ no longer zeros the entire union, only the first member. To zero the whole thing, you'll need C23 or C++, or the F0 init padding bits equals unions flag. That's a potential gotcha for many.
Right, good catch. What about performance improvements?
The default vectorizer cost model at O2 is enhanced, handling unknown trip counts better, though it still disables vectorization in certain cases, like runtime dependence checks. And Ftime report now only reports monotonic runtime, reducing overhead significantly.
Excellent. What about language-specific improvements? OpenMP, perhaps?
Oh yeah, OpenMP is massive in GCC 15. Unified shared memory support for some AMD and NVIDIA GPUs is a huge win. Using the Unified Shared Memory clause, they've also added support for OpenMP 6.0's Self-Maps clause, and a new predefined allocator, OpenMP x nupind mem_alloc.
Wow, that's a lot. Anything else in OpenMP?
Tons. The allocate directive now supports static variables in C and Fortran. C++ support is coming. Improved offloading, especially for NVIDIA GPUs, terminal writing from OpenMP target regions in Fortran, is now supported. And OpenMP 5.0/5.1 features like unroll, tile, meta-directives, and dynamic selectors are all in. Plus, OpenMP 6.0's get device from Eminoid and omp getToId from _device API routines.
Incredible. It sounds like a complete overhaul. What about C and C++ specifically?
C now defaults to std equals new23, a big change. Many C23 features are implemented, like the hashtag embed directive, unsequenced and reproducible attributes, and updates to stdc version_e. Even some C2Y features are supported as extensions.
Amazing. And C++?
C++ gets a bunch of C++26 and C++23 features, including many proposals like P2558R2, adding characters to the basic character set, P2552R3 on the ignorability of standard attributes, and many more. Plus, several defect reports have been resolved. Significant improvements to modules, too.
Wow, that's a lot of C++ work. What about the standard library, libsdc++?
Debug assertions are now on by default for unoptimized builds, which is great for catching errors early. And there's improved experimental support for C++23 and C++26 features, including things like views, concat, and std_flat_map.
Fantastic. Any other notable changes?
Oh, plenty. Fortran 2023 features are included, like selected logical kind. Experimental support for unsigned integers is added with fun-signed and there are major improvements to various targets, including AMD GPUs, GCN, AVR, Iowa 32X, 8664, NVPTX, and SH. New ISA extensions are supported for x86, like AMX-AVX 512 and AVX 10.2. It's a huge release.
This is incredible. It seems like GCC 15 is a game changer. Thanks for the summary.
My pleasure. And remember, this is just a brief overview. Be sure to check out the official GCC 15 release notes for all the details. Thanks for listening to Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the world of OCaml Goal and why frame pointers are suddenly a big deal. It's all about improving profiling and debugging, folks.
Right, I've heard whispers about this. So the core issue is that standard profiling tools like perf struggle with OCaml 5, right? Because of the non-contiguous stacks?
Exactly. OCaml 5's multi-core implementation uses these non-contiguous stacks, which are essentially invisible to tools like perf. They're stored in runtime allocated memory, not directly on the stack like in C or C++. This leads to truncated or incorrect profiling data.
So frame pointers are the solution. How do they help?
Yes. Frame pointers provide a consistent way to track the call stack, regardless of the underlying hardware architecture. Think of them as a reliable pointer to the base of the current function's stack frame. This allows tools like perf to accurately unwind the stack and get a clear picture of what's happening.
I see. But isn't adding frame pointers an overhead? More instructions, more memory usage?
That's a great question. The overhead is actually minimal. For ARM64, it's just a few extra instructions, ASTP, an LDP, and an add. And the extra stack space is usually already allocated anyway due to alignment requirements. It's a small price to pay for significantly improved profiling and debugging capabilities.
Interesting. So this work focused on AMD 64 and ARM 64 initially? What about other architectures?
Yes, those are the most common platforms. They've made great progress there, with support already in OCaml 5.3 and 5.4 for those architectures. But the goal was broader, to support all Tier 1 platforms. AMD 64, ARM 64, RISC-V, S390X, and Power. They've made a good start, but RISC-V still needs some work, and S390X and Power are still in the early stages.
So what's the next step? More work on those other architectures?
Precisely. They need to finish the remaining platforms, and then do some benchmarking, especially for ARM 64, to confirm the minimal overhead. And there's also a new manual section planned to explain how to use frame pointers effectively with perf. If you're an OCaml enthusiast with some low-level expertise, this is a great opportunity to contribute.
That sounds exciting. It seems like a significant improvement for the OCaml ecosystem. This makes debugging and profiling much easier, especially for larger projects.
Absolutely. It's a huge win for the OCaml community. And it's a testament to the power of open-source collaboration. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of OCaml frame pointers. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into the world of modernist cuisine, a truly revolutionary approach to cooking. It's not just a cookbook, it's a phenomenon.
Absolutely. I've heard whispers, but I'm eager to hear the details. What makes it so revolutionary?
Well, it's a 6-volume set, a behemoth weighing in at a hefty 52 pounds. Think of it as an encyclopedia of culinary science and art. It's packed with over 2,400 pages, 1,500 plus recipes, and a staggering 3,700 photographs. It's visually stunning.
Wow, that's intense. I'm picturing something more akin to a coffee table book than a practical cookbook. Is it actually usable for everyday cooking?
That's a great question. While the sheer scale is impressive, it's surprisingly practical. It breaks down cooking techniques with scientific precision, making it accessible to both professional chefs and home cooks. They cover everything from basic techniques to advanced molecular gastronomy. Think ultrasonic fries and encapsulated spheres of tomato water.
Ultrasonic fries? Okay, I'm officially intrigued. What kind of accolades has this culinary behemoth received?
Oh, it's been showered with awards. It won the prestigious James Beard Award for Cookbook of the Year in 2012. And it's been lauded by publications like The New Yorker, Vogue, and The Wall Street Journal. Even David Chang and Farhan Adria have praised it.
David Chang and Farhan Adria? That's some serious validation. So, beyond the sheer size and awards, what's the core philosophy behind modernist cuisine?
It's all about understanding the science behind cooking. They meticulously explore the history of cuisine and explain the science in an accessible way. It's not just about following recipes. It's about understanding why certain techniques work, allowing for innovation and creativity in the kitchen.
I see. So it empowers cooks to experiment and develop their own techniques? That's a pretty powerful concept. But, the price point must be astronomical, right?
You're right, it's not cheap. But considering the scope, the quality, and the lasting value, many consider it a worthwhile investment. Plus, there are other books in the series, like Modernist Cuisine at Home, which is more focused on home cooks and offers a more accessible entry point.
That's good to know. It sounds like a fascinating project, a true testament to the intersection of art, science, and technology in the culinary world. A real game changer.
Exactly. It's more than just a cookbook. It's a journey into the future of cooking. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News thing. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the upheld conviction of Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of the infamous Theranos. A major legal development, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. A stunning conclusion to a saga that captivated the tech world and beyond. So, the appeal was rejected? What were the key arguments?
Precisely. The Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco just shot down Holmes's appeal. Her lawyers argued procedural errors and questionable evidence at trial. But the court saw through it. They didn't buy the claims of improper procedures.
And what about the specifics of the case? I mean, the Edison machine, that was the heart of it all, right? The machine that promised so much and delivered so little.
Exactly. The court essentially agreed that the Edison machine, the centerpiece of Theranos' fraudulent claims, simply didn't work as advertised. The prosecution's argument that the device's failure wasn't really contested held up. Remember, Holmes claimed it could run a multitude of tests with a single drop of blood, a massive biotech breakthrough that never materialized.
It's almost unbelievable, the scale of the deception. Billions of dollars lost, based on a technology that was fundamentally flawed. And Balwani's conviction was upheld too, correct?
Yes, Balwani, Holmes's former partner and Theranos president, also had his conviction upheld. They were tried separately, but both faced similar charges, and both appeals were rejected. This really hammers home the severity of their actions.
So Holmes remains in prison, serving her sentence. I think it's important to remember the human cost here too. The investors who lost millions. The patients who may have received inaccurate test results. It wasn't just a financial crime. It was a betrayal of trust.
Absolutely. And don't forget, her sentence has been reduced for good behavior, but she's still looking at a significant amount of time. She's expected to be released in 2032, having served 9 years. It's a long time to reflect on the consequences of her actions. It's a cautionary tale for anyone in the tech world, a stark reminder of the importance of honesty and integrity.
It's a fascinating case study in corporate fraud, the allure of hype, and the ultimate consequences of unchecked ambition. And her recent interview in People magazine, she painted a rather bleak picture of prison life, didn't she?
She did. Describing it as hell and torture, she talked about the separation from her children and husband. It's a stark contrast to the image she cultivated during Theranos' heyday. A powerful reminder that even those who seem to have it all can face devastating consequences. I see. Interesting.
It's a complex story with many layers. The legal battle is over, but the ethical and societal implications will continue to be debated for years to come. This case will undoubtedly be studied in business schools for decades.
Indeed. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for joining us. We hope you found this discussion insightful. Goodbye, and have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a truly unsettling story from the Associated Press. A mystery illness in Congo claiming over 50 lives within 48 hours of symptom onset. It's terrifying, isn't it?
Absolutely. The speed of this is alarming. The article mentions symptoms like fever, vomiting, and internal bleeding, classic hemorrhagic fever indicators. But what's particularly striking is that they've ruled out the usual suspects like Ebola and Marburg. That's a huge red flag.
Exactly. The fact that they've tested over a dozen samples and still haven't identified the pathogen is incredibly concerning. The article points to a possible origin. 3 children who ate a bat. That's a chilling detail.
Yeah, zoonotic diseases jumping from animals to humans, are a growing concern, especially in regions where bushmeat consumption is common. The WHO's report highlighting a 60% surge in such outbreaks in Africa over the last decade is deeply worrying. This isn't just a Congo problem, it's a global one.
I see. It's interesting that they mention malaria as a positive test result in some cases. Could it be a co-infection? Or is malaria somehow a factor in the severity of this new illness? It's something that needs further investigation, right?
Absolutely. It could be a confounding factor, masking the true pathogen, or it could even be exacerbating the effects of the unknown illness. More research is crucial to understand the interplay between the two. The 48-hour time frame between symptom onset and death is incredibly short, suggesting a highly virulent pathogen. It's a race against time.
Right. And the article also highlights the broader context of ongoing conflict in the region. The instability makes effective disease control and response incredibly challenging. It's a perfect storm of factors, really.
It certainly is. The article mentions other recent outbreaks in Congo, some of which were later identified as malaria. This raises the question, how can we improve early detection and response mechanisms to prevent these situations from escalating so rapidly? This isn't just about identifying the pathogen. It's about building robust public health infrastructure in vulnerable regions.
That's a crucial point. We need better surveillance systems, quicker diagnostic capabilities, and more resources dedicated to public health in these areas. The speed of this outbreak underscores the urgent need for improved global collaboration and preparedness for emerging infectious diseases. It's a complex problem with no easy answers, but we need to act fast.
Absolutely. This isn't just a health crisis, it's a humanitarian crisis waiting to happen. The rapid mortality rate and the unknown nature of the illness are deeply concerning. We need to stay informed and support efforts to contain this outbreak and prevent future ones. This is a critical situation.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We'll continue to monitor this developing story and bring you updates as they emerge. Remember to stay informed and stay safe. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating little detail about HTML, the mysterious underscore in target equals underscore blank. It's a seemingly small thing, but it reveals a lot about the evolution of the web.
Right, I've always just used it without thinking. What's the story behind that underscore? Is it just a convention, or is there a deeper reason?
It's not just convention, it's a historical artifact. Before HTML5, the web was a very different place. Remember those? Multiple frames within a single browser window. Each frame had a name, like sidebar or content.
Oh yeah, those were something. I remember the headaches. So how did target fit into that?
The target attribute specified which frame a link should open in. So would open in the frame named content. Simple enough, right? Except
what? Was there a problem with this system?
Well, imagine a frame named blank. If you used A, it would open in that frame. But if no blank frame existed, the browser would create a new window, not a tab, because tabs weren't a thing back then, and name it blank. Subsequent clicks on the same link wouldn't open another window. Clever, but limited.
I see. So the underscore in target equals underscore blank is the key to understanding this. It's not referencing a frame name, but something else entirely.
Exactly. The underscore is a signal. It tells the browser, this isn't a frame name. This is a special instruction. Open this in a new tab or window, depending on the browser's capabilities. It's a way to escape the frame-based semantics of older HTML.
So it's a legacy feature, essentially. A workaround from a time when the web was structured very differently.
Precisely. And that's why it's so interesting. It's a tiny detail that speaks volumes about the evolution of web development. A little bit of history baked right into our modern HTML.
It's amazing how much you can learn from seemingly insignificant details. And a good reminder to not use anymore, as you mentioned. It's deprecated, right?
Absolutely deprecated. Stick to tabs. They're much cleaner and easier to manage. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of HTML's target equals underscore blank. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating project. Photon bricks. Lego interferometers that bring quantum physics to life. It's incredibly cool.
Lego and quantum physics? That sounds like a fantastic combination. What's the core idea behind photon bricks?
Exactly. Researchers at the University of Nottingham created these Lego kits to teach interferometry, a technique used in everything from eye exams to detecting gravitational waves. It's all about using lasers and mirrors to create interference patterns, which are super sensitive to even tiny changes.
So these aren't just toy Lego sets, they're actual working scientific instruments? That's amazing.
Precisely. They're fully functional interferometers, replicating professional equipment, but in a way that's accessible and engaging for secondary school students and beyond. Think of it as a hands-on, playful way to learn about complex concepts. It's genius.
I can see the educational value. But how does it actually work? I mean, how do Lego bricks create an interferometer?
That's the clever part. The kits use Lego to build the structure that holds the lasers, mirrors, and beam splitters in the right positions. The instructions are easy to follow, making it a straightforward build, even for those without a physics background. It's surprisingly simple, yet effective.
So it's not just about building, it's about understanding the underlying principles of interferometry. And the article mentions the Schrodinger's cat experiment. How does that fit in?
Right. The project also compares the LEGO interferometer to a more advanced, commercially available single-photon interferometer. This one demonstrates Schrödinger's cat, the idea that a particle can be in multiple states at once until observed. The LEGO version provides a foundational understanding, making the more complex concept easier to grasp. It's a stepping stone to higher-level quantum concepts.
That's a really smart approach. It's like scaffolding for learning. The article also highlights the success of the workshops. Were they well received?
Absolutely! The initial workshop was fully booked months in advance, and they've added more due to high demand. Participants raved about how accessible and engaging the LEGO approach made quantum physics. One participant even said physics was a closed book before, but this made it understandable. It's a testament to the project's success.
It's inspiring to see how a playful approach can break down barriers to learning complex scientific concepts. And the project's impact extends beyond just the workshops, right?
Yes. The blueprints and instructions are being shared online, and the team is working to get the LEGO sets into classrooms across the UK. They're also collaborating with other universities to expand the project's reach. It's a truly collaborative effort to inspire the next generation of scientists.
This is a fantastic initiative. It's not just about teaching quantum physics. It's about fostering a love of science and showing that even cutting-edge research can be fun and accessible. It's truly inspiring.
Absolutely. And it aligns perfectly with the UN's declaration of 2025 as the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology. Photon Bricks is a perfect example of how to make complex science engaging and accessible to a wider audience. It's a game changer.
It really is. Thanks for sharing this exciting news with us.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of photon bricks. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a comprehensive review of Canadian VPS providers, a topic near and dear to the hearts of many tech enthusiasts. We'll be focusing on a recent blog post detailing a hands-on comparison of 3 prominent players in the Canadian VPS market.
Excellent. I'm particularly interested in the author's methodology. Did he just look at marketing materials, or did he actually test the services?
Oh, he went way beyond marketing fluff. He actually purchased and used each service for several weeks. He laid out his specific requirements up front. Things like 2+ cores, 8 GB plus RAM, substantial storage and transfer limits, and, crucially, a fully Canadian infrastructure. He also emphasized a preference for a geek-friendly, transparent approach from the providers, avoiding excessive marketing jargon.
So which providers made the cut? And what were the key differentiators?
He tested KeepSec, Globo.tech, and FullHost. The key differences emerged in several areas. Provisioning speed, underlying infrastructure, OpenStack was a common theme but with variations, connectivity and peering arrangements, and of course, performance benchmarks. He used a tool called Nench to get a detailed performance profile of each.
Interesting. Did any of them stand out in terms of provisioning speed?
All 3 boasted immediate provisioning, which is impressive. That's a huge plus for anyone needing a quick setup. But the real differences showed up in the underlying hardware and network configurations.
Ah, yes, the hardware. I'm curious about the CPU discrepancies he noted. Some inconsistencies between what was advertised and what proc/CPU info revealed, right?
Exactly. KeepSec, for instance, advertised AMD EPYC processors, but the system reported Intel Haswell. Globo.tech showed QEMU virtual CPUs, suggesting some level of core sharing. FullHost, however, matched its advertised AMD EPYC processors. This highlights the importance of independent verification beyond marketing claims.
And what about the network performance? That's often a critical factor for VPS users.
Absolutely. KeepSec's connectivity was a bit disappointing, routing through multiple U.S. cities to reach other parts of Canada. Globo.tech and FullHost, however, showed much better peering arrangements, with Globo.tech using Hurricane Electric's Canadian network, and FullHost leveraging Astute Internet's well-connected Vancouver infrastructure. FullHost even had amazing ping times, staying entirely within the Vancouver area.
So based on all this, who was the winner?
Drum roll, please. FullHost emerged as the victor. While Keepsec had excellent server performance, it suffered from some UI and billing issues. Globo.tech was solid but expensive and limited to Montreal. FullHost offered the best combination of price, performance, and local connectivity. Now, the author even migrated his services from DigitalOcean to FullHost.
That's a strong endorsement. Did the author mention anything about IPv6 support?
Ah, yes. A common omission. None of the three providers offered IPv6, which the author noted as a drawback, although he acknowledged it wasn't a deal-breaker for him personally. FullHost's website has promised IPv6 for a while, but it remains elusive.
So, a solid review with a clear winner, but some areas for improvement for all the providers. Thanks for summarizing this for us.
My pleasure. And a big thank you to our listeners for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this deep dive into the Canadian VPS landscape informative and engaging. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into Flash MLA, a GitHub project promising significant speed improvements in large language model decoding. It's got almost 10,000 stars, which is pretty impressive, right?
Absolutely. 10,000 stars speaks volumes about community interest. But what exactly is Flash MLA? Is it a whole new language model or something else?
No, it's not a language model itself. Think of it more as a highly optimized decoding kernel. It's designed to dramatically speed up the process of turning the model's internal representations into the text we actually see. It's specifically tuned for Hopper GPUs, NVIDIA's latest architecture.
Hopper GPUs. So this is very hardware specific then? What kind of performance gains are we talking about?
That's the exciting part. They claim speeds up to 3,000 gigabytes per second in memory-bound scenarios and 580 teraflops in computation-bound ones on an H800 SXM5. That's a massive leap in performance. They're using BF16 and FP16 precision and a clever paged KV cache with a 64-block size.
Whoa, those are some impressive numbers. But what's a paged KV cache? I'm not familiar with that terminology.
It's a caching mechanism to speed up access to key value pairs. The paged aspect means it's broken down into smaller, manageable chunks for efficient memory access. It's a crucial optimization for handling variable length sequences, which are common in natural language processing.
I see. So it's all about optimizing memory access and computation. But how easy is it to actually use this thing? The README mentions a setup.py file, suggesting a straightforward Python installation.
Yeah, the installation seems pretty straightforward. Just a Python setup.py install. And the usage example in the README looks fairly clean, using PyTorch. They provide functions like getMLmetadata and flashmlaw with _kv cache to integrate it into existing code. It's definitely geared towards developers already working with large language models.
That's good to hear. But the requirements section mentions Hopper GPUs and CUDA 12.3 or higher. That's a pretty significant barrier to entry for many researchers and developers, isn't it? It limits accessibility considerably.
You're absolutely right. That's a major limitation. The hardware requirements significantly restrict the potential user base. It's a powerful tool, but its usefulness is heavily dependent on having access to high-end NVIDIA hardware. That's a key point to remember.
So, while the performance gains are impressive, the accessibility issue is a significant drawback. It's a niche solution for now, but potentially very impactful within that niche.
Precisely. It's a fascinating project, though. The sheer speed improvements are remarkable, and the clever engineering behind the KV cache optimization is noteworthy. It'll be interesting to see how this project evolves, and whether we see similar optimizations for other GPU architectures in the future. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Flash MLA. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a fascinating story about how the American Rescue Plan Act is revolutionizing broadband access in underserved communities. It's amazing.
Right. I saw the headline, Cheap Gigabit Fiber? That sounds too good to be true. How is this even possible?
It's all thanks to ARPA funding, which is quietly fueling the development of community-owned, open-access fiber networks. Think of it. Gigabit speeds for $50 to $65 a month. That's a fraction of what the big monopolies charge.
So how are these communities pulling this off? Is it some kind of magical technology?
No magic, just smart planning. In Oswego County, New York, for example, they received a $26 million ARPA grant to build an open access network. Multiple ISPs can then compete on that shared infrastructure, driving down prices. It's a brilliant model.
That's a huge grant. But what about the sustainability? Will this model work long term?
That's a great question. The success depends on continued community support and smart management of the infrastructure. But the initial low prices are already attracting customers and putting pressure on the established monopolies. It's a game changer.
And it's not just New York. You mentioned other states are doing similar things, right?
Absolutely. Carver County, Minnesota is another great example. They built a dark fiber network using ARPA funds and then leased it to a private company, Metronet. Metronet is offering gigabit fiber at incredibly competitive prices. It's a public-private partnership that's working wonders.
This is a stark contrast to the usual approach, isn't it? Throwing money at the big telecoms hasn't worked very well.
Exactly. Many states have tried throwing money at the big players, but that hasn't solved the problem. Some even tried Starlink, but that has its own issues. This community-owned model is a much more sustainable and equitable solution. It's putting the power back in the hands of the people.
It's interesting that this isn't getting more media attention. It seems like a huge success story.
You're right. It's almost like the media finds infrastructure too boring to cover. But this is quietly transformative. It's also a shame that the Democrats aren't better at messaging the impact of ARPA funds on affordable broadband. It's a missed opportunity.
I agree. This is a huge win for consumers and for the future of internet access. It's a model that other communities should be looking at.
Absolutely. And with the additional $42.5 billion in broadband grants from the 2021 infrastructure bill, there's even more potential for this kind of community-led initiative to flourish. The future of broadband looks bright. But there are concerns about the Trump administration potentially diverting those funds. We'll have to keep an eye on that.
Definitely something to watch. Thanks for breaking down this important story. It's truly inspiring to see communities taking control of their own internet access.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into how core Git developers configure their Git, uncovering some hidden gems and potentially game-changing settings. Get ready to optimize your Git workflow.
I'm all ears. What are some of the most impactful settings we'll be discussing? Are we talking about performance boosts or more about workflow changes?
Both, actually. We'll cover settings that significantly improve Git's usability and efficiency. Think smarter branch sorting, improved diff algorithms, and streamlined pushing and fetching. We'll even touch on some more niche settings that some might find incredibly useful.
Sounds exciting. Let's start with the branch sorting. I've always found the default alphabetical order a bit clunky.
Exactly. The branch.sort equals -committer date setting sorts branches chronologically, putting the most recently updated branches at the top. Coupled with column.ui equals auto, which formats the output in columns, it makes navigating branches a breeze. It's a simple change, but it makes a huge difference in daily use.
I see. And what about the tag.sort equals version, ref name setting? That sounds like it could be a lifesaver for projects with many tags.
Absolutely. It intelligently sorts tags based on version numbers, preventing the chaos of alphabetical sorting, where version 1.10 might appear before version 1.2. It's a small change, but it dramatically improves tag readability. It's one of those things you don't realize you need until you have it.
Makes perfect sense. What about the diff settings? I'm always looking for ways to make diffs easier to understand.
The diff.algorithm equals histogram setting is a big one. It uses a more advanced algorithm than the default, resulting in clearer and more intuitive diffs, especially when dealing with moved code blocks. It's a significant upgrade in terms of readability. We'll also discuss diff.colorMoved, diff.mnemonic prefix, and diff.renames, which further enhance the diff experience.
Wow, that sounds impressive. I'm particularly interested in the histogram algorithm. Is it significantly slower than the default?
It's a fair question. While it's slightly slower, the improvement in readability often outweighs the minimal performance hit. For most users, the difference is negligible, but for very large files, the default might be preferable. It's a trade-off, but for me, clarity wins.
Got it. What other categories of settings did the article cover?
Besides the clearly makes Git better category, there's why the hell not, which includes settings like help, autocorrect equals prompt, which prompts you before autocorrecting commands, and commit. Verbose equals true, which includes the full diff in your commit message editor, providing more context. Error cased. Then there's a matter of taste, which includes more subjective settings like merge. Conflict style equals zdiff3 and pull. Rebase equals true.
Interesting. The zdiff3 merge conflict style sounds intriguing. I'm curious to try that one out. What's the difference between diff3 and zdiff3?
Zdiff3 is a more advanced version of diff3, offering a slightly improved presentation of merge conflicts by including the base version of the code in addition to your changes and the other branch's changes. It's only available in newer Git versions, though. If you have an older version, just use diff3.
Fascinating. This has been incredibly insightful. I'm definitely going to be experimenting with these settings.
I'm glad you found it helpful. Remember, these are just suggestions, and the best configuration will depend on your individual workflow and preferences. Experiment, find what works best for you, and enjoy a smoother, more efficient Git experience. Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day, and happy coding.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating blog post about a surprisingly elusive bug, not in a user's code, but in a widely used sorting function. It's a wild ride.
Ooh, exciting. I'm always up for a good debugging story. What's the gist?
The author recounts years of experience where programmers, including himself, blamed compiler errors when, in reality, the problem always stemmed from a misunderstanding of the programming language or a subtle error in their own code. It's a common pitfall, you know?
I see. So it's a cautionary tale about debugging practices? Right?
Exactly. But then, the unexpected twist. The author discovers a genuine bug, not in his code, but in the built-in JavaScript sort function within Code Studio, a coding platform. Can you believe it?
No way. A bug in a fundamental function like sort. That's incredibly rare, isn't it? What caused it?
The sort function used a bubble sort algorithm, which optimizes by checking if any swaps were made in a pass. If no swaps occurred, it assumes the array is sorted. The bug was in the condition to stop early. It should have checked for changes equals 0, but instead, it checked changes, a tiny, seemingly insignificant detail with huge consequences.
Wow, that's a subtle bug. So, a simple off by one error in the termination condition of a bubble sort led to incorrect sorting? That's amazing. Did the author immediately spot the error?
Not immediately, no. He spent quite some time debugging his own code before realizing the issue. He even contacted the Code Studio team, initially thinking he'd made some fundamental misunderstanding of JavaScript. It's a testament to how easily we can overlook the obvious when we're focused on our own code.
Absolutely. It's a great reminder to always consider the possibility of bugs in system libraries, even seemingly fundamental ones. It's humbling, really.
Indeed. The Code Studio team reacted very professionally, investigating and fixing the bug quickly. The whole story highlights the importance of thorough testing and the occasional, but very real, existence of bugs even in well-established libraries. It's a great lesson for all programmers.
It certainly is. Thanks for sharing this fascinating story. It's a great reminder to be thorough in our debugging and to not always assume the error lies in our own code. It's a great story.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the exciting updates to the MSVC address sanitizer in Visual Studio 2022, version 17.13. Get ready, folks, because this is a big one.
I'm buzzing with anticipation. What are the key improvements? Is this a game changer for C++ developers?
Absolutely. A massive game changer. The biggest news is the upstreaming to LLVM. Previously, MSVC ASAN lagged behind LLVM's compiler-RT, causing delays in incorporating crucial updates. Now, they're syncing weekly, bringing the best of both worlds.
That's fantastic news for keeping up with the latest security patches, right? Less fragmentation, more efficiency.
Precisely. And it's not just about syncing. They've also significantly improved Windows-specific support. They've enhanced their handling of Windows memory allocators, addressing issues with legacy apps and those quirky Windows-only allocation methods.
I always struggled with those legacy apps. This sounds like a huge win for compatibility. What about the continue on error mode? I've heard whispers about that.
Oh yeah, the continue on error mode is a lifesaver. Similar to LLVM's halt on error equals 0, it lets you keep debugging even after encountering multiple memory errors. No more abrupt crashes, allowing for smoother debugging in complex projects.
That's brilliant. It's like having a safety net for your debugging sessions. So, what other improvements have they made?
Loads! They've improved global and local memory management interoperability, which was a known challenge. They've also expanded the surface area of intercepted APIs, reducing false positives, especially in legacy environments. Plus, they've addressed issues with distinguishing pre-ASAN allocated memory, eliminating more false positives.
I see. Interesting. So fewer false positives mean more reliable results, leading to faster debugging cycles. Did they tackle any specific API issues?
Oh yes. They fixed problems with aligned offset memory APIs, CRT APIs, and even some x64/x86 instruction sequence interceptions. They even added wide string intrinsic support for memory tracking. It's a comprehensive overhaul.
Wow, that's a lot of fixes. It sounds like they've really put in the work. But I'm curious, they mentioned building the MSVC tools and compiler with ASAN itself. Isn't that a bit meta?
Totally meta, but incredibly effective. It's like using a metal detector to find more metal detectors. They're using ASAN to find bugs within ASAN and the MSVC toolchain itself. This proactive approach ensures the highest quality.
That's a clever strategy. It's like eating your own dog food, but on a much larger, more technical scale. So what's the bottom line? Should we all rush to update?
Absolutely. This update significantly improves the reliability and accuracy of MSVC ASAN. The upstreaming to LLVM, the enhanced Windows support, and the numerous bug fixes make it a must-have for any serious C++ developer. Go download Visual Studio 2022 version 17.13 and give it a whirl.
Thanks for the insightful summary. I'm definitely going to check this out. This is great news for the C++ community.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating study on orchids and their surprisingly complex relationship with fungi. It's all about nutrient theft, photosynthesis, and a fascinating continuum between the two.
Ooh, sounds intriguing. Is this about orchids completely abandoning photosynthesis and becoming fully parasitic?
Not quite, although that's a related area of research. This study focuses on Oreorchis patens, a partial parasite. It's a plant that can photosynthesize, but it also supplements its diet by stealing nutrients from fungi. Amazing, right?
I see. So it's like a mixed strategy, a bit of both worlds?
Exactly. And the really cool part is that this isn't just about making up for a shortfall in photosynthesis. The research shows that when Oreorchis patens grows near decaying wood, it switches fungal partners to ones that break down the wood. This allows it to absorb significantly more nutrients, leading to bigger plants and more flowers. It's a total upgrade.
Wow, so it's actively choosing to become more parasitic when the opportunity arises? That's adaptive behavior at its finest.
Precisely. It's not just passively supplementing, it's actively enhancing its nutrient intake. The researchers found a direct link between this increased fungal parasitism and improved plant vigor. That's a huge finding.
But if it's so advantageous, why don't all Oreorchis patens orchids do this? That's a great question.
That's where the environmental aspect comes in. The study suggests that the specific fungi needed for this enhanced nutrient uptake are only found near decaying wood, and even then, only at certain stages of decomposition. So it's not a strategy they can employ all the time, only when the right conditions are met. It's a matter of opportunity, not need.
That makes perfect sense. It's a fascinating example of how environmental factors can shape a plant's lifestyle. So, what are the next steps in this research?
Well, there are still many unanswered questions. For example, what triggers the development of those unusual coral-shaped rootstocks? And how exactly do environmental factors influence the amount of nutrients the orchids take from the fungi? It's a whole new area of research.
Absolutely. This study really highlights the complexity of plant-fungi interactions and the incredible adaptability of orchids. It also opens up a lot of avenues for future research into the photosynthesis-parasitism continuum. I'm excited to see what comes next.
Me too. This research is a significant step forward in understanding the diverse strategies orchids use to thrive. It's a reminder of how much we still have to learn about the intricate relationships within our ecosystems. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of orchids and their fungal partners. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating journey through the history of English waymarks, from ancient cairns to modern motorway signs. It's a surprisingly rich topic.
I'm already hooked. So let's start at the beginning. What were the earliest forms of waymarking in England?
Right. Initially, it was pretty rudimentary. Think simple cairns, piles of stones, or standing stones, later adopted by the Romans. These were crucial, especially in remote areas, because, getting lost could be deadly.
Deadly! That's a chilling thought. And the Romans, they improved on this, right?
Absolutely. They used more permanent stone markers, often inscribed with distances in Roman miles. One example, a cylindrical sandstone shaft in Cumbria, originally indicated a distance of 53 Roman miles to Carlisle. Amazingly, it was unearthed in 1836 during plowing.
Incredible! So how did waymarking evolve after the Roman era?
With the arrival of Christianity, wayside crosses became common, often at junctions. But many were damaged during the Reformation. Then, a clever development, carving directions and distances onto stones, creating guide stones and guide stoops, particularly in hilly areas like the Pennines.
I see. So these were essentially early forms of signposts, but carved in stone. Fascinating how practical and enduring they were. Interesting. What about the impact of the turnpike trusts?
The turnpike trusts. A huge leap forward. Starting in the 17th century, they were responsible for maintaining roads and, importantly, installing standardized mile markers. This was a huge undertaking, and it led to a surge in milestone construction, especially between 1751 and 1771.
So a kind of early road infrastructure project, funded by tolls. Did they use a standard design for these milestones?
Not initially. There was a lot of variation. But the 1766 General Turnpike Act made milestones a legal requirement, leading to more uniformity. We see a range of designs: simple stones with distances inscribed, more elaborate obelisks, and eventually, cast iron markers.
Obelisks? That sounds impressive. And what about the materials? Did they stick to stone?
No, the industrial age brought cast iron into the picture. This allowed for mass production of more standardized and durable mileposts. We see examples from foundries like Barwell and Company in Northampton, often with distances to multiple towns.
That's a significant shift. So, from stone to iron, reflecting technological advancements. And what happened after the turnpikes?
Well, the last turnpike trust ended in 1885. County and rural district councils took over road maintenance, and we see the emergence of more modern designs, like the Bradley stones in Worcestershire, made of concrete. And of course, the evolution continues into the modern age, with motorway signs and digital displays.
It's amazing to see how waymarking has evolved, reflecting changes in technology, governance, and even warfare. I mean, hiding the milestones during World War II. A truly comprehensive history. Thanks for this insightful journey.
My pleasure. It's been a fascinating look at how simple wayfinding has shaped our roads and history. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a powerful report from the Washington Post detailing the experiences of migrants detained at Guantanamo Bay. It's a sobering look at the conditions they faced.
Right, and it's especially concerning given the context. The article highlights the accounts of 3 migrants who were recently deported. What were some of the key allegations?
The article paints a grim picture. The men described invasive frisks, prolonged periods of isolation, and a complete lack of contact with their families. One detainee, Duvar Uskategi, even described tracking time by marking his Bible after meals because his cell had no windows. Imagine that. The sheer hopelessness.
Absolutely horrific. The lack of basic human contact is particularly disturbing. It speaks volumes about the potential for psychological damage in such an environment. Did the article mention any instances of self-harm?
Yes, it did. The article explicitly states that some detainees attempted suicide. That's a stark indicator of the desperation and despair these individuals experienced. It's not just about physical conditions. It's about the profound psychological toll.
And the conditions themselves sound incredibly harsh. A bucket for a toilet, a thin foam pad for a bed. It's dehumanizing. It makes you wonder about the legal and ethical implications of such treatment. Was there any mention of legal representation or due process?
That's a crucial point. While the article details the harsh conditions, it doesn't delve deeply into the legal aspects of their detention. That's something that needs further investigation. It's easy to focus on the emotional impact, but the legal framework surrounding these detentions is equally important. We need to understand the justification for these actions.
I agree. The emotional impact is undeniable, but the legal context is crucial for understanding the systemic issues at play. The article focuses on the human cost, but the lack of detail on the legal proceedings leaves a significant gap in our understanding. It's a story that demands further scrutiny.
Exactly. The Washington Post article serves as a powerful call to action. It highlights the urgent need for transparency and accountability in the treatment of migrants held at Guantanamo. The human stories are heartbreaking, and the lack of information on the legal side is deeply concerning.
It certainly is. It's a reminder of the importance of human rights, even in the context of national security concerns. The article leaves a lasting impression, and hopefully, it will spark a wider conversation about the ethical and legal implications of these practices.
Absolutely. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow with more insightful discussions. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating mathematical puzzle, creating any integer using only 4 twos. It's surprisingly deep.
4 twos? That sounds restrictive. What are the rules exactly?
Exactly. You can use any mathematical operation: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, exponentiation, factorials, even the gamma function if you're feeling ambitious. The goal is to express any natural number using precisely 4 twos and no other digits.
So like 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 8 is a trivial example, right? But what about something harder like 7?
Right, simple additions are easy. 7 is notoriously tricky. Initially, it seems impossible with basic arithmetic, but with exponents and factorials, the possibilities expand dramatically. Middle school math opens up a whole new world.
I see. And what about even more advanced techniques? Are we talking calculus here?
Oh yeah. The article mentions using integrals, repeating fractions, and even combinatorial operators. It gets wild. One solution even uses complex numbers. It's amazing how many different mathematical tools can be applied.
So this isn't just a simple puzzle. It's a showcase of mathematical ingenuity across different levels of mathematical understanding. But how do you solve it generally?
That's where Paul Dirac comes in. He found a general solution using nested square roots. It's elegant, but a bit mind-bending. The core idea is to use repeated square roots to generate a sequence of numbers, and then use base 2 logarithms to fine-tune the result.
Nested square roots? That sounds intense. Could you elaborate a little more on the general formula?
Sure. The formula involves a variable n representing the number of nested square roots. The formula itself uses only 3 twos initially, but a clever substitution using 2 halves allows us to incorporate a 4th 2, making it perfectly fit the puzzle's constraints. It's a bit of a cheat, but a clever one.
A clever cheat, you say? I'm not sure I'd call it cheating. It's more like a creative application of mathematical identities to satisfy the constraint. It's brilliant, actually.
Exactly. It highlights the flexibility of mathematical notation and the power of creative problem solving. The beauty lies in the fact that any number can be expressed this way, although drawing all those nested square roots might be a challenge.
Definitely a challenge. This puzzle is a great example of how a seemingly simple problem can lead to surprisingly complex and elegant solutions. It's a testament to the power and beauty of mathematics.
Absolutely. And it's a fun way to explore different mathematical concepts, from basic arithmetic to advanced calculus. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this mathematical deep dive. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating blog post about JSON's rise as the dominant machine-readable format on Unix systems. It's a really insightful piece.
I'm eager to hear this. The title mentions JSON as a modern machine-readable format. What makes it so special in the context of Unix systems specifically?
Well, the author uses a practical example. Deleting 1,200 emails from a postfix mail queue using JSON output from postfix, he could easily filter and delete the messages using JQ, a powerful JSON processor. This highlights JSON's elegance and efficiency in automating tasks.
That's a compelling example. So it's not just about the format itself, but the ecosystem around it on Unix, right? The availability of tools like JQ makes all the difference.
Exactly. The author argues that while JSON might not be the best format, it's the least bad and offers several pragmatic advantages. It's highly extensible, handles various data types well, and has robust escaping rules. Plus, the growing number of Unix tools supporting JSON simplifies processing.
Interesting. So it's a kind of narrow waist, a common ground for different programs to communicate, avoiding the need for custom formats?
Precisely. It avoids the headaches of creating and maintaining bespoke formats. Think about it. Designing a robust, machine-readable format is trickier than it seems. JSON provides a ready-made solution, saving developers time and effort.
I see. But doesn't the author mention any drawbacks of JSON? I mean, it's not perfect, right?
You're right. The author acknowledges that JSON isn't perfect. He even links to another post discussing its limitations, but he emphasizes its practical advantages in the Unix context, especially the readily available tools and its broad acceptance.
So the key takeaway is that JSON's success on Unix isn't about inherent superiority, but its practical utility and the rich ecosystem that's grown around it. It's a pragmatic choice, not an ideological one.
Exactly. It's a format that's become a de facto standard because it works well, it's widely supported, and it simplifies a lot of tasks. It's a testament to the power of practical considerations in software development.
That's a really insightful point. It makes me think about other areas where a least bad solution might be the most effective in the long run. Thanks for summarizing this.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time with more insightful tech discussions. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into standard schema, a fascinating development in JavaScript and TypeScript schema validation. It's all about creating a unified interface, a common language, for different schema libraries.
Exactly. So the big idea is interoperability, right? No more writing custom adapters for every single schema library you want to use?
Precisely. The core goal is to streamline the process. Imagine you've built a fantastic validator using Zod. With standard schema, you can seamlessly integrate it with tools built for other libraries like Valibot or Archetype, without rewriting a bunch of code. It's a huge time saver.
And it's all based on a single TypeScript interface, standard schema v1, right? That's incredibly elegant.
Super elegant. It's a beautifully minimal design. The whole spec is contained within a single property, ~standard, cleverly tucked away to avoid clashes with existing library APIs. They even used a tilde prefix to push it down in auto-completion suggestions. Brilliant!
That's smart thinking about the developer experience. So what are the key features of this ~standard property? I'm particularly interested in the validate function.
Absolutely. The ~standard property holds the version, the vendor name, and crucially, the validate function. This function is the heart of the system. It takes an unknown value and returns either a success result with the validated output or a failure result with a list of issues. It's designed to be straightforward to implement for existing libraries.
And the error handling, how does it standardize error reporting across different libraries?
Great question. The failure result interface provides a standardized way to report errors. It includes a issues array, where each issue has a message and an optional path indicating where the error occurred. This consistency is key for building robust tools that can handle validation errors from any compliant library.
I see. So type inference is also a big part of this, right? How does standard schema handle that?
Yes. The types property within ~standard allows libraries to advertise their inferred types. This enables tools to extract and use these types, enhancing type safety across the entire ecosystem. It's a really powerful feature for statically typed languages like TypeScript.
That's impressive. So I'm curious about the implementation. How easy is it for existing libraries to adopt this standard?
The designers really focused on minimal effort. They aimed for a few lines of code to integrate, mostly just wrapping existing validation functions within the ~standard.validate function. The provided example shows how simple it can be. It's a testament to their thoughtful design.
That's reassuring. And what about the libraries and tools that already support it? Are there many?
Oh yes. A whole bunch of popular libraries like Zod, Valabot, and Archetype already support it, along with many others. And several frameworks and tools, such as TRPC and TanStack Form, are also on board. The list is constantly growing, which is fantastic to see.
This sounds incredibly useful. Is there anything that could be improved, though? Any potential downsides?
Well, one minor point is the optional asynchronous nature of the validate function. While it offers flexibility, it might introduce some complexities for tools that only support synchronous validation. But overall, the benefits far outweigh this minor consideration.
Good point. So in short, standard schema is a game changer for schema validation in the JavaScript and TypeScript ecosystem. It promotes interoperability, improves developer experience, and enhances type safety. A truly impressive piece of engineering.
Absolutely. It's a testament to collaborative effort and smart design. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion insightful today. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a truly unbelievable story. A $30 thrift store find that turned out to be a $223,000 jet engine valve. Can you believe it?
No way! $250,000 part at a thrift store? That's insane. What kind of valve are we talking about here?
It's an engine air supply valve, specifically part number 3290628-4 from Honeywell. It's used in a GE CF6-80 engine, which you'll find on an Airbus A330-300. Apparently, it might even be part of the anti-icing system.
Wow, that's seriously high-tech stuff. So this guy, Zach, just stumbled upon this thing?
That's exactly right. He found it at a thrift store in Central Washington for a mere $30. He's an online reseller, so he's used to finding bargains. But this one takes the cake. He even posted about it on Reddit.
I can only imagine the reaction he got. But, $223,000 is a 2011 reference value, right? What's the current value?
That's a great point. The article mentions that's the reference value from 2011, according to Aeroval, an aircraft parts dealer. The current value is unknown, and Zach himself is pretty realistic about it. He knows that getting anywhere near that price is a long shot, especially without the proper documentation.
Yeah, I can see that being a huge hurdle. No paperwork, no sale, probably. It's a fascinating story, though, isn't it? Someone just tossed away a potentially incredibly valuable piece of equipment.
Absolutely. It really highlights how easily something of immense value can be overlooked. It also makes you wonder how it even ended up at a Goodwill. Maybe it was part of a larger lot of discarded parts?
Or maybe it was intentionally discarded because it was damaged or non-functional? That's a possibility, right?
That's a good point. Zach himself acknowledges that it might be non-functional. The part number is visible, but it's attached to other components, so it's hard to say for sure what condition everything is in. He's not counting on a huge profit, but still, what a find.
It's a crazy story, a real-life treasure hunt. I'd love to know what happens next. Will he sell it? Will he find out more about its history?
Exactly. It's a story that's got everyone talking. It's a reminder that sometimes the most unexpected places hold the most unexpected treasures. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bites and News. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into some seriously exciting news about zlib-rs, a Rust implementation of the ubiquitous zlib compression library. It's not just safer, it's faster.
Faster than the C implementations? That's a bold claim. I'm intrigued. What kind of performance gains are we talking about?
Yeah, it's a big deal. According to the release announcement and a blog post by the Trifecta Tech Foundation, zlib 40 pays .2 is substantially faster than other implementations, especially for decompression. They're boasting significant improvements over both zlib-dashing and Chromium's zlib implementation.
Wow! Can you give us some concrete numbers? I need some data to back up this substantially faster claim.
Sure, for decompression, they're seeing well over 10% speed improvements for 1 kilobyte inputs and over 6% for 65 kilobytes inputs compared to zlib. And, get this, they're even beating Chromium's implementation in many relevant chunk sizes.
That's impressive. But what about compression? Is it equally impressive there?
The results for compression are a bit more mixed, They've made improvements, but it's not as consistently dominant as the decompression performance. They're still working on that aspect.
I see. So the key takeaway is that for decompression, zlib-rs is currently the fastest API-compatible zlib implementation available? That's quite a feat.
Precisely. And remember, this is all while maintaining zlib API compatibility, which is crucial for easy integration into existing projects. It's not just about raw speed. It's about speed and compatibility.
Right, the API compatibility is key. That makes the transition much smoother for developers. What's the next step for the zlib-rs project?
They're aiming to raise €95,000 in funding to further enhance performance and improve packaging. They're clearly aiming high and want to solidify their position as the top performer.
Makes sense. Investing in performance and packaging is a smart move to ensure wider adoption. This is a fantastic example of how Rust's focus on safety and performance can lead to real-world improvements in widely used libraries.
Absolutely. It's a great success story for Rust and a testament to the hard work of the Trifecta Tech Foundation. This is a game changer for anyone working with compression. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into Omni AI's groundbreaking OCR benchmark. It's a really exciting development in the field, The whole thing is open source, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. I've been following this closely. So, the core question this benchmark addresses is whether LLMs are truly replacing traditional OCR, right? And it seems they're making a strong case, at least in some areas.
Precisely. They used a massive dataset, 1,000 real-world documents, the messy kind you'd find anywhere, to compare traditional OCR providers like Azure, AWS Textract, and Google Document AI with vision language models like Gemini 2.0 and GPT-4. The methodology is incredibly rigorous too. They're not just looking at simple text similarity.
That's a key point. They're focusing on JSON extraction accuracy, which is much more relevant to real-world applications. Using text similarity scores, like Levenshtein distance, can be misleading, especially with things like invoices, where the layout might change but the information remains the same. That's a brilliant approach.
Exactly. They use GPT-4 as a kind of judge, comparing the OCR output to ground truth JSON. Clever, huh? And the results are fascinating. Omni AI's Gemini 2.0 Flash led the pack with 91.7% JSON accuracy, significantly outperforming many traditional methods. But it wasn't a complete victory for LLMs.
I see. So where did the traditional methods shine? I'm curious about the limitations of LLMs in this context.
Right. Traditional OCR still holds an edge on high-density documents like textbooks and research papers, and with standardized forms like tax returns. Plus, there's the unpredictable factor of content policy. GPT-4, for example, refused to process certain images, like IDs, which is a significant limitation. It's a bit of a wild card, you know?
That's a crucial point. The cost and latency also varied significantly, didn't they? LLMs seem to be more expensive and slower, especially for complex documents.
Absolutely. The cost per 1,000 pages ranged from near zero for some LLMs to over $20 for others. Latency was also a factor, with some LLMs taking over 20 seconds per page. It's a trade-off, really.
It's a really comprehensive benchmark. The fact that the entire dataset, methodology, and even the code are open source is amazing. It allows for reproducibility and further research. This is a huge step forward for transparency in the field.
Totally agree. It's a testament to OmniAI's commitment to open science, and the Data Explorer is fantastic. You can dive into the raw data, see the ground truth JSON, and even explore different document types. It's a goldmine of information.
Pat, I think this benchmark really highlights the strengths and weaknesses of both traditional OCR and LLMs. It's not a simple case of one replacing the other. It's more about finding the right tool for the job. A nuanced perspective is needed.
Precisely. And the benchmark is ongoing, constantly evolving to incorporate new providers and document types. It's a dynamic field, and this benchmark is setting a new standard for evaluation. So that's our deep dive into OmniAI's OCR benchmark. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News.
Thanks for having me. And to our listeners, goodbye for now.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a really cool GitHub project, Radiacode, a Python library for controlling RADIACODE 10x radiation detectors. It's got amazing potential.
I'm all ears. So what exactly does this library let you do? Is it just reading radiation levels, or is there more to it?
Oh, it's way more than just reading levels. You can collect real-time measurements, analyze the radiation spectra, and even manage the device settings, all through Python. Think remote control for your radiation detector.
Wow, that's powerful. How does the connectivity work? Is it just USB, or are there other options?
Both. It supports both USB and Bluetooth connectivity, giving you flexibility in how you use it. The documentation even includes examples for both connection types. Pretty neat, huh?
Definitely. And what about the analysis part? How detailed is the spectral analysis?
The library lets you acquire and analyze the full spectrum data. You get the live time, total counts, and you can even access energy calibration coefficients. It's quite comprehensive.
Impressive. So is it easy to get started? I'm assuming some Python knowledge is required, but what about the hardware setup?
Getting started is surprisingly straightforward. They provide a great quick start guide. You just need to install the library using pip, and then you can run their examples. The examples cover both basic terminal output and a more advanced web interface. The web interface is particularly cool.
A web interface? That's unexpected. What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a really nice touch. It's a simple but functional web app that displays the radiation data in real time. They even provide the code for both the back end and the front end, making it easy to understand and modify. It's a great way to visualize the data.
That's fantastic for visualization. But what about platform compatibility? Does it work on all operating systems?
It's pretty good across the board. It works well on macOS and Windows using USB. Linux supports both USB and Bluetooth, but you might need to install some additional libraries and potentially UDEV rules for USB access. macOS Bluetooth support is limited by the Bloopy library, unfortunately.
So some minor oxygen monosulfide specific hurdles, but overall it seems very versatile. What's the license like? Is it open source and freely usable?
Absolutely. It's licensed under the MIT license, so it's completely open source and free to use for both commercial and non-commercial purposes. The community seems pretty active too, with several contributors listed on the GitHub page.
That's great to hear. It sounds like a really well-made and useful project. Thanks for highlighting it.
My pleasure. This Radiacode library is a fantastic example of how open source projects can make powerful tools accessible to a wider audience. It's definitely worth checking out if you work with radiation detectors or are interested in radiation monitoring. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening and have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into Good Game Insights, an AI-powered platform offering invaluable data for the video game industry, specifically focusing on Steam market analysis. It's amazing.
Right, I've been hearing about this. So what makes Good Game Insights stand out from other Steam data providers? Is it just the AI aspect?
It's more than just the AI, although that's a huge part of it. They're not just providing raw data, they're offering actionable insights. Think about it. They've scraped data from over 95,000 games, covering everything from release dates and pricing to review counts and even estimated revenue. That's a massive data set.
Wow, that's impressive. But how does the AI actually help? I mean, what kind of questions can you ask it?
You can ask incredibly specific questions in plain English. Want to know the average price of puzzle games released in the last year with a specific tag? Boom, you get the answer. Need to understand the market performance of a particular genre? The AI can break it down for you. It's like having a personal market research assistant.
That's incredible. So it's not just about the sheer volume of data, but the ability to quickly extract meaningful information. But what about the pricing? Is it worth it?
They offer a free plan, which is pretty generous. You get access to all the CSV data, which is already a huge win for anyone comfortable with data analysis. But the paid plans unlock the AI assistant, which is where the real value lies. The member plan, at $5 a month, gives you unlimited chat threads and 150 credits. That's a lot of questions you can ask the AI.
I see. So the free plan is great for those who are comfortable crunching numbers themselves, but the paid plan is for those who want the AI to do the heavy lifting and provide quick, insightful answers. It's a smart tiered system. But what about the data itself? How accurate is it?
Good point. They're upfront about the fact that some data, like revenue and wishlist numbers, are estimations based on reviews and followers. It's not perfect, but it's a pretty good approximation, and the sheer scale of the data makes up for any minor inaccuracies. Plus, they're constantly updating it monthly.
That's reassuring. So overall, Good Game Insights seems like a powerful tool for game developers, especially those looking to make data-driven decisions. It saves a ton of time on data scraping and analysis, and the AI assistant is a game changer. It's a really smart approach to market research.
Exactly. It's not just about saving time. It's about making better, more informed decisions. Whether you're a solo developer or a larger studio, having access to this kind of data and analysis can be the difference between success and failure. And the fact that they offer a free plan makes it accessible to everyone. I'm really impressed.
Absolutely. It seems like a valuable resource for anyone serious about the Steam market. Thanks for breaking it down for us.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes in News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes in News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into a fascinating paper on a wireless, heterogeneous skin patch for multimodal monitoring and stimulation. It's a game changer, folks.
A wireless patch? Sounds intriguing. What makes this different from existing wearable health tech?
Exactly. Most current wearables focus on single-modality sensing, like just measuring heart rate or sweat. This patch integrates electrical, optical, and chemical sensing all in one incredibly thin, flexible package. Think ECG, photoplethysmography, PPG, and even on-demand drug delivery, all simultaneously.
Wow, that's a lot of functionality in one device. How do they manage to pack all that in such a small, flexible form factor? I'm guessing miniaturization is key, right?
Absolutely. They cleverly use a folded design. Instead of trying to stack everything vertically with vias, which is tricky with flexible materials, they create functional islands on a flexible printed circuit board, FPCB, connecting them with serpentine interconnects. Then, they fold the whole thing. Ingenious!
Serpentine interconnects? So they're using these winding pathways to accommodate the bending and stretching of the patch on the skin? That's smart to distribute stress.
Precisely. And they've done FEA simulations to prove it. The serpentine design significantly reduces strain on the interconnects compared to straight lines, ensuring reliable connections even under significant skin deformation. They even added a strain-isolating layer of silicone elastomers to further protect the rigid components.
I see. Interesting. So the folding isn't just for size, it's a crucial part of the mechanical design. But how does the drug delivery work? Is it some kind of microneedle system?
Yes, it uses a microneedle array for transdermal drug delivery. But the clever part is the pumping mechanism. It's a force electrically driven micropump using a thermopneumatic approach. They heat tiny chambers to create pressure, pushing the drug through the needles. It's all controlled wirelessly.
That's really cool. But wouldn't the folding affect the flow rate of the drug? I mean, you're bending a microfluidic channel.
That's a great point. And they address that too. Their FEA simulations show that while there's some stress on the channel during folding, the buckling of the channel actually accommodates the stress, and the flow rate is barely affected. They even show that the flow rate is adjustable by changing the switching frequency of the micropump.
Impressive. So it's not just a proof of concept, they've actually characterized the performance of each component. What about the optical sensing, the PPG? How does that work with the folding?
They use flexible PDMS waveguides to guide light to and from the skin. PDMS is great because it's flexible and easy to fabricate. They've even characterized the optical losses due to bending and stretching, showing that the transmittance remains high enough for reliable PPG measurements even when folded. Amazing.
So they've demonstrated all three modalities, electrical, optical, and chemical, working together? Is there a closed-loop system?
Yes, that's the really exciting part. They've demonstrated a closed-loop system where the heart rate, measured via ECG, can trigger the drug delivery system. If the heart rate goes above a certain threshold, the patch automatically releases the drug. They show this in real time using IR thermal imaging of the micropump. It's truly a step towards personalized, automated healthcare.
This is incredible. It sounds like a significant advancement in wearable technology. The integration of multiple modalities, the clever folding design, the robust mechanical properties, and the closed-loop functionality, it's all very impressive. What are the potential applications beyond cardiovascular monitoring?
Oh, the possibilities are vast. They mention applications in blood glucose monitoring, pain management, and various chronic diseases. It's a truly versatile platform. This is a really exciting development, and I think we'll be seeing a lot more of this kind of technology in the future.
I completely agree. This is a significant leap forward. Thanks for breaking down this complex paper for us.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of advanced wearable technology. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow for another exciting episode.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of sublinear time algorithms. It's a field that's really taking off, especially with the explosion of big data.
Absolutely. I'm buzzing with excitement. The idea of algorithms that work in sublinear time, that is, less than linear time proportional to the input size, seems almost magical. How is that even possible? I mean, doesn't an algorithm need to look at all the data?
That's the million-dollar question, or perhaps the million-gigabyte question in this case. Traditionally, yes, we've thought linear time was the best we could hope for, but the reality is, with massive data sets, even linear time can be impractically slow. So, sublinear algorithms offer a revolutionary approach. They cleverly avoid examining every single data point.
So they're approximate, right? You can't get exact answers without looking at everything?
Precisely. For most problems, sublinear algorithms are probabilistic and provide approximate solutions, but the trade-off is often worth it. A fast, approximate answer is better than no answer at all, especially when dealing with terabytes or petabytes of data. There are some exceptions, though. Some problems allow for deterministic exact sublinear algorithms.
That's incredible. What are some of the techniques used to achieve this sublinear magic?
Oh, there are some really clever techniques. One example is property testing, which focuses on approximating whether the data satisfies a certain property rather than computing an exact solution. Another is the use of things like the Semireti regularity lemma and low-rank approximations of matrices. These methods allow for efficient sampling and estimation.
So it's all about smart sampling and approximation techniques?
Exactly. It's about finding the right balance between the accuracy of the result and the time it takes to compute it. And the field is still very young. There's a lot of ongoing research to find more efficient algorithms and expand the range of problems that can be tackled in sublinear time.
This is mind-blowing. Are there any specific examples of problems that have been successfully tackled with sublinear algorithms?
Yes, there are many. Classical optimization problems, for instance, can often be approximated in sublinear time, and property testing has been applied to a wide variety of problems. Even testing properties of distributions, where you only have access to samples, is possible in sublinear time relative to the support size of the distribution.
Wow, this is really opening my eyes to a whole new world of algorithmic possibilities. Where can we learn more about this?
There are tons of resources. The article mentions several surveys and even a dedicated website, ON, which is a great place to find recent research and resources. There are also several books and papers listed in the article. It's a vibrant and growing field.
I'm definitely going to dive deeper into this. Thanks for this fascinating overview.
My pleasure. And remember, listeners, keep exploring the exciting world of computer science. This is Tech Bytes and News, signing off. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating project, Lifeboat Linux, a tiny, incredibly portable Linux recovery system.
35 megabytes? That's ridiculously small for a whole Linux distro. What's the secret sauce?
Precisely. It's a minimal rescue system, focusing on essential tools. Think of it as a Swiss Army knife for your broken computer. But instead of tools, it's got file system manipulation, partition resizing, and more.
So no fancy desktop environment or anything like that, right? Just command line tools?
Exactly. Command line only. It's all about efficiency and speed. No bloatware to slow things down, just the bare essentials to get you back up and running. It's designed to run directly from the EFI partition, so no USB drive needed. Just copy the EFI executable, and you're good to go.
That's brilliant. I'm curious about the build process. How difficult is it to compile this thing?
Surprisingly straightforward. A simple make clean build command does the trick. They even support incremental builds for faster iteration during development. Although a clean build is always recommended for production use, to avoid any potential build contamination.
I see. Interesting. And what about customization? Can I add my own scripts or tools?
Absolutely. You can add custom scripts and resources to a designated user scripts directory within the EFI partition. There's even a special init file you can create that runs on login, allowing for things like keyboard layout customization or setting shell aliases. It's quite flexible.
That's really well thought out. But I'm a little concerned about security. Running something directly from the EFI partition feels a bit risky. What about secure boot?
Good point. Secure boot is definitely a consideration. The documentation mentions that if you're using secure boot, you'll need to sign the EFI executable. The project itself doesn't cover the specifics of adding it to your bootloader, as that's highly system dependent.
Right, makes sense. So overall, this Lifeboat Linux project seems like a really clever and useful tool for system administrators and anyone who's ever had a computer crash. The small size is a huge plus, and the ease of use is impressive.
Totally agree. It's a testament to the power of minimalism in software design. The fact that it's only 35 megabytes and can handle tasks like partition resizing and file system manipulation is quite remarkable. It's a great example of a focused, efficient tool solving a real-world problem. And with the active development and regular releases, it's only going to get better.
Definitely worth checking out for anyone who needs a lightweight, portable recovery system. Thanks for highlighting this. It's a great find.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a truly mind-bending development. Amazai-designed chips that are so complex, humans can't fully grasp them, yet they outperform anything we've built before. Isn't that incredible?
Absolutely. I've been reading about this. It seems like a huge leap, but also a little unsettling. How are these chips designed exactly? I mean, if we can't understand them, how do we even know they work?
That's the million-dollar question. The researchers used a deep learning AI with an inverse design method. Instead of starting with components and assembling them, the AI starts with the desired performance characteristics and figures out the necessary design from there. It's like magic.
So it's essentially letting the AI work backwards from the desired outcome? That's a pretty radical departure from traditional chip design, in Maine. It's almost like letting an artist create a masterpiece without giving them any specific instructions, just a general idea of what you want.
Exactly. And the results are bizarre. The resulting chip designs are described as randomly shaped, completely unlike anything a human engineer would come up with. The AI treats the chip as a single, holistic system, not a collection of parts. It throws out all our preconceived notions and established templates.
That's fascinating, but also a little scary. If we can't understand how these chips work, how can we be sure they're reliable? What about potential flaws or vulnerabilities?
That's a valid concern. The researchers acknowledge that the AI does produce some designs that don't work, what they call hallucinations, similar to issues seen in other generative AI models. There's still a need for human oversight to weed out those failures. But even with that, the successful designs significantly outperform existing chips.
So it's not about replacing human engineers entirely, but augmenting their capabilities? Using AI to explore design spaces that are simply too vast for humans to navigate on their own? That makes more sense.
Precisely. The speed at which the AI can generate and iterate on designs is a game changer. It opens up possibilities for optimizing chips for specific needs, whether it's energy efficiency, raw performance, or extending the frequency range. This could revolutionize the entire electronics industry.
It certainly sounds like it. This research focuses on millimeter wave chips, but the potential applications extend far beyond that, right? Could this technique be applied to other types of circuits?
Absolutely. The researchers believe this is just the beginning. If this method can be scaled to other circuit designs, it could fundamentally change how we design electronics. It's a huge step towards a future where AI plays a much more significant role in engineering. It's piss-dying. It's pretty exciting stuff.
It really is. It's a testament to the power of AI, but also a reminder of the importance of human ingenuity and oversight. We need to understand the limitations of these AI tools, but the potential benefits are enormous. This is a fascinating area to watch.
Indeed. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into MDQ, a fascinating command line tool that's like JQ, but for Markdown files. It lets you extract specific elements from Markdown documents with ease. Think of it as a powerful, precise scalpel for your Markdown files.
That sounds incredibly useful. I'm always wrestling with messy regexes to parse Markdown. So how does MDQ actually work? What's the core concept?
The core idea is simple yet elegant. It uses a filter syntax that mirrors Markdown structure. You specify what you want. Sections, lists, links, images, even tables, using selectors that closely resemble the Markdown itself. No more convoluted regex nightmares.
I see. So instead of cryptic regex patterns, you use something more intuitive, like hash title text, to select a section, right?
Exactly. It's incredibly intuitive. And you can chain filters together using pipes, just like with JQ. So you could, for instance, select all uncompleted tasks within a specific section. It's incredibly powerful for automating tasks related to Markdown documents.
That's amazing. The examples you mentioned, like extracting ticket URLs from PRs or checking for completed tasks in bug report templates, are very practical. But how does it handle different Markdown elements? Does it support all the common ones?
Oh, absolutely. It supports a wide range of elements. Sections, lists, ordered and unordered, links, images, block quotes, code blocks, raw HTML, plain paragraphs, and even tables. The table handling is particularly clever. You can select specific headers and rows to extract precisely what you need.
And the syntax for selecting these elements, is it complex?
Not at all. It's designed to be incredibly user-friendly. You can use unquoted strings, case-insensitive, quoted strings, case-sensitive, regexes, or even wildcards. The documentation provides clear examples for each element type. It's very well documented, which is a huge plus.
That's a relief. Well-documented tools are a lifesaver. But what about installation? Is it a hassle?
Not at all. You can install it via cargo, download pre-built binaries from the GitHub releases, or even grab them directly from the build workflow. The binaries are built on GitHub servers, adding an extra layer of trust if you're comfortable with that approach. They also provide instructions on how to verify the binaries for security purposes.
Building on GitHub servers. I'm a bit hesitant about that. While convenient, it does introduce a dependency on a third-party service. Perhaps offering self-compiled binaries as an option would further enhance security and trust for users concerned about supply chain issues.
That's a valid point. While the GitHub-built binaries offer convenience, the option to build from source would certainly address those concerns and provide more control to users prioritizing security. It's definitely something worth considering for future development.
Absolutely. But overall, MDQ seems like a fantastic tool. The intuitive syntax, combined with its powerful capabilities, makes it a game changer for anyone working extensively with Markdown. I'm definitely going to give it a try.
I'm glad you think so. It's a really elegant solution to a common problem. And remember, the documentation is comprehensive, with tutorials and a full user manual available. Happy parsing! And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye!
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the daily roundup of Tech Bytes and News. See you again tomorrow. Goodbye.